Behind massive doors, hidden from prying eyes, mysterious ceremonies have been performed for 3 centuries. Blindfolded men enter temples, swear to keep secrets, and undergo symbolic death and resurrection. They are called Freemasons. Freemasons. Who are they? What happens during their initiation rituals? What secrets do the ancient symbols, the compass, the square, and the skull in the black room hide? Today, we will lift the veil of secrecy and tell you what really happens behind the closed doors of Masonic lodges. Get ready for a journey into a world where history, philosophy, and mysticism intertwine. If you are interested in learning about the secret rituals of the Freemasons, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Here's a question for you to ponder. Do you think Masonic rituals are still relevant in the 21st century, or are they just outdated traditions? Share your opinion in the comments. Can secret ceremonies really change a person, or is it just a theatrical performance? We look forward to hearing your thoughts. Only one candle burns in the dark room. The candidate stands blindfolded in front of a massive door. He knocks 3 times. There is silence behind the door. Then a muffled knock is heard in response. The door slowly opens, and the man enters a world that has kept secrets for 3 centuries. This is how initiation into Freemasonry begins. An ancient ritual shrouded in legend. What happens behind the closed doors of Masonic lodges? Why are the ceremonies still shrouded in mystery? What must a person go through to become part of the Brotherhood of Freemasons? Freemasonry is one of the most mysterious phenomena in human history. Thousands of books have been written about it, hundreds of films have been made, and legends have been composed. Some call the Freemasons a secret world government. Others simply a club for the select few. The truth lies somewhere in between. But one thing is certain. Masonic rituals exist. They are written down in detail and have been observed for over 300 years. Every movement, every word, every symbol has a deep meaning and refers to ancient traditions. Today, there are thousands of Masonic lodges around the world. They operate in Europe, America, Asia, and Africa. According to various estimates, the Brotherhood numbers between 2 and 6 million people. Among the Freemasons were kings and presidents, scientists and writers, military leaders, and industrialists. But all of them, regardless of their position in society, went through the same initiation ritual. They all stood blindfolded in a dark room. They all knelt before the altar. They all took an oath never to reveal the secrets of the Brotherhood. The initiation ceremony is not just a formality. It is a profound symbolic act that is supposed to change a person's consciousness. Freemasons believe that their rituals originate from ancient mysteries, from Egyptian priests, from the builders of Solomon's temple, from medieval stonemasons. Whether this is true or fiction is a matter of debate. But one thing is certain. Masonic ceremonies create a special atmosphere, immersing the participant in a state close to trance, forcing them to think about the eternal questions of life and death, good and evil, light and darkness. Masonic rituals are strictly regulated. There are special books, ritual collections, which describe in minute detail what participants should say and do. These texts are passed down from generation to generation, carefully preserved and never shown to anyone. Although some documents have become available to researchers and have even been published in our time, Freemasons still consider it their duty to keep the secret. After all, knowledge of the ritual is not everything. The atmosphere itself is important, as is the personal experience of going through the trials. There are 3 degrees of initiation in classical Freemasonry: apprentice, journeyman, and master. Each degree is a separate ritual, a separate ceremony, a separate stage of spiritual development. The first degree, the degree of apprentice, is the most dramatic. It is this degree that transforms an ordinary person into a Freemason. It is during this ritual that the candidate first encounters the symbols of the Brotherhood, first learns the secret signs and words, and first takes the oath. The second degree, journeyman, is devoted to learning and knowledge. The third degree, master, is associated with the legend of death and resurrection. But not everything in Masonic ceremonies is sublime. There are frightening elements: the tip of a compass pressed against the chest, swords pointed at the initiate, an oath mentioning terrible punishments for breaking the secret, skeleton bones in the room of reflection. All this is intended to impress the candidate, to make them understand the seriousness of the moment. Freemasons explain that these elements are only symbols. No one is going to kill or maim anyone. But the symbols are meant to remind a person of their mortality, that life is short and must be lived with dignity. So what secret lies behind these rituals? The history of Freemasonry does not begin in the 18th century, but much earlier, in the Middle Ages. At that time, there was a grand construction boom throughout Europe. Majestic cathedrals, castles, bridges, and fortresses were being built. The builders were true masters of their craft. They possessed the secrets of architecture and engineering, which were passed down from teacher to student. This knowledge was kept secret from outsiders. Builders formed guilds, professional unions that protected the interests of their members and monitored the quality of their work. Medieval stonemasons' guilds had a strict hierarchy. There were 3 levels of skill: apprentice, journeyman, and master. To move from one level to another, it was necessary not only to master the necessary skills, but also to undergo an initiation ceremony. During this ceremony, the young builder was taught professional secrets and introduced to special signs and words that guild members used to recognize each other. This was necessary because builders often moved from place to place, from one construction site to another, and had to prove their qualifications. Masons' guilds were called lodges. This word comes from the French word meaning a hut or workshop. Indeed, temporary buildings were erected on construction sites where builders gathered to work and rest. Their meetings and ceremonies were also held there. The lodge was not only a place of work, but also a kind of brotherhood. Bricklayers called each other brothers, helped each other in difficult times, and supported the families of deceased comrades. This tradition of mutual aid and solidarity has been preserved in Freemasonry to this day. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the profession of bricklayer began to lose its significance. The era of great Gothic construction came to an end. The guilds fell into decline, but the traditions were preserved. And then something interesting happened. The Masons' Guild began to accept people who had no connection with construction. These were aristocrats, scientists, and philosophers who were attracted by the symbolism of the craft and the atmosphere of brotherhood. Such members were called accepted Masons, as opposed to operative Masons, i.e., actual builders. Gradually, there were more and more accepted Masons, and fewer operative Masons. Freemasonry was transforming from a professional union into a philosophical society. Construction tools, the square, compass, plumb line, and trowel, took on symbolic meaning. The Masons said that they were not building stone buildings, but a temple of virtue, a temple of humanity. They called themselves speculative Masons, that is, speculative, theoretical. Their work was work on themselves, on their souls and minds. The date of birth of modern Freemasonry is considered to be June 24, 1717. On this day, 4 lodges in London united and created the Grand Lodge of England. This event marked the beginning of the organized Masonic movement. The first statutes and regulations were adopted. The principles on which the brotherhood should be based were formulated. The main ones were belief in a supreme being, the great architect of the universe, moral improvement, brotherly love, mutual aid, and tolerance. The new Freemasonry quickly spread throughout Europe. Lodges appeared in France, Germany, Italy, and Russia. Each country contributed its own characteristics to Masonic rituals and traditions. Different statutes and systems of degrees appeared, but the basis remained unchanged. 3 symbolic degrees: apprentice, journeyman, master, and initiation rituals inherited from medieval guilds. However, these rituals were significantly revised and enriched with new symbols and meanings. 18th-century Freemasons saw themselves as enlighteners and humanists. They proclaimed the ideals of reason, freedom, equality, and brotherhood. It is not surprising that there were many prominent figures of the time among the Freemasons: Voltaire and Montesquieu, Mozart and Goethe, Washington and Franklin were members of lodges. In Russia, Suvorov and Kutuzov were Freemasons. Masonic ideas influenced the ideology of the American and French revolutions. But what was the path of an ordinary person into this elite brotherhood? Becoming a Freemason is not easy. Unlike ordinary clubs, where you can join simply by paying membership fees, not everyone who wants to join Freemasonry is accepted. There is a complex selection process for candidates, which can take months or even years. Freemasons believe that their brotherhood is not a mass organization, but an association of select individuals who share certain values and are willing to work on themselves. Therefore, the selection of new members is taken seriously and carefully. First of all, there are formal requirements for candidates. They must be male. Although in some countries there are female and mixed Masonic organizations, classical regular Freemasonry only accepts men. Candidates must be of legal age. In most jurisdictions, this means being at least 21 years old. He must be a free man, that is, not in prison or under investigation. He must believe in a supreme being. Atheists are not accepted into Freemasonry. A specific religion is not important. Christians, Jews, Muslims, and Buddhists can be Freemasons. The main thing is belief in God. In addition to formal requirements, there are informal ones. The candidate must have a good reputation. He must not have been convicted of a criminal offense. He must be mentally healthy and capable of acting. It is desirable that he have a stable financial situation and be able to pay membership fees, although Freemasonry does not require its members to be wealthy. Personal qualities are important: honesty, decency, a thirst for knowledge, and a willingness to help others. Freemasons say that they do not accept those who want something from the brotherhood, but those who are willing to give something. An interesting feature of Freemasonry is that you cannot apply to join a lodge yourself. There is a rule that a candidate must be recommended by existing members of the Brotherhood. They say that Freemasons do not invite, but they do not refuse either. In practice, this works as follows. A person interested in Freemasonry must find a Freemason who can recommend them. This is often an acquaintance, friend, or colleague. Sometimes people contact the lodge directly, but even in this case, they are first given an appointment to meet, get acquainted, and talk. And only then, if both parties are interested, does the admission procedure begin. Once a candidate has been proposed, an investigation begins. Yes, that's what it's called. Several Masons are appointed to gather information about the candidate. They talk to him personally, visit his home, meet his family, and inquire about his reputation, work, and lifestyle. This may seem excessive, but the Freemasons explain that they are accepting a person into their family and must be sure that he is trustworthy. After all, the members of the lodge will have to share their innermost secrets with him and entrust him with the secrets of the Brotherhood. The candidate is then discussed at a lodge meeting. Every Freemason has the right to express his opinion. After the discussion, a vote is held. Most lodges use a system of black and white balls. A white ball means consent to accept the candidate. A black ball means rejection. One or more black balls are enough to reject the candidate. This is called a ballot. Moreover, those who vote against are not obliged to explain their reasons. The vote is secret, and no one will know who voted against the candidate. If the candidate is accepted, preparations for initiation begin. The candidate is taught the basic principles of Freemasonry, told about the structure of the lodge, and what is expected of him. It is emphasized that Freemasonry is not a business club or a political organization. No deals are made here, and no careers are built. The goal of Freemasonry is the moral improvement of the individual. The Brotherhood helps in this, but the main work must be done by each individual. The candidate is also told that initiation is a serious event that must be treated with the utmost responsibility. But what awaits him beyond the threshold of the temple? The evening of initiation. The candidate arrives at the lodge building. Usually, it is an inconspicuous structure with no distinctive signs, except for a small plaque with the symbol of a compass and a square. He is met at the entrance and led into a small waiting room. Here, the candidate is left alone. He is told that someone will come for him soon and asked to prepare himself. The preparation consists of removing all metal objects, watches, jewelry, coins, keys, belts with buckles. Even cell phones must be left behind. This is the first test for the candidate. He remains alone in the room, not knowing what will happen next. The silence weighs heavily on him. Every sound behind the door makes him flinch. The minutes drag on endlessly. Thoughts swarm in his head. What awaits him? How serious are the trials he has heard about? Will he be able to pass them with dignity? Will he be ashamed in front of his brothers? These doubts and fears are part of the ritual. Freemasons believe that a person should come to initiation in a special state of mind, purified from the vanity of everyday life. Finally, the door opens. A Freemason in a black suit and white gloves enters. He is called the gatekeeper or expert. He speaks little and sternly. He checks whether the candidate has done everything correctly. Then, the preparation ritual begins. The candidate is blindfolded with a thick bandage. The light disappears. The world is plunged into darkness. This symbolizes the ignorance of a person who has not learned the truth of Freemasonry. Then a rope is thrown around the candidate's neck. This is the so-called rope, a symbol of dependence and willingness to obey. Next, the gatekeeper unbuttoned the candidate's shirt, exposing the left side of his chest in the area of the heart. The right sleeve was rolled up above the elbow. The left trouser leg was also rolled up, exposing the knee. The right foot was unshod. All of this has symbolic meaning. The exposed heart signifies sincerity and openness. The bare arm signifies readiness to work. The bare foot signifies humility. The exposed knee signifies submission to higher powers. The candidate feels vulnerable and defenseless. When the preparation is complete, the gatekeeper takes the candidate by the hand and leads him down the corridor. Walking blindfolded is frightening. The candidate cannot see where he is stepping, bumps into corners, stumbles. The gatekeeper guides him, but does so silently and sternly. Finally, they stop in front of a door. This is the door to the temple, the Holy of Holies of the Masonic Lodge. All ceremonies and rituals take place behind it. The uninitiated are not allowed in. And now the candidate stands on the threshold of this mysterious place. The gatekeeper takes the candidate's hand and makes him knock on the door 3 times. The knock resounds in the silence like thunder. The candidate feels his heart beating. What is there behind the door? Who will meet him? What will they do to him? Fear mixes with curiosity and excitement. A few seconds pass. Then a knock comes from behind the door. 1 knock. It is a sign that the candidate has been heard. The door slowly opens. The candidate is pushed forward. He crosses the threshold of the temple. At that moment, the candidate feels something pressing against his chest. Sharp, cold. It is a compass, one of the main symbols of Freemasonry. Its tip is pointed directly at the candidate's heart. A voice from the darkness asks, "Who are you, and what do you want?" The gatekeeper answers for the candidate. This is a man born free, of good reputation, who asks to be accepted into our brotherhood. The compass is removed. The candidate is led further into the temple. A ceremony begins that will change his life forever. But first, he must pass one more test, the most terrifying one. But before the candidate enters the temple, he must pass through the room of reflection. This is a special room that exists in every Masonic lodge. It is usually a small windowless room painted black. There is nothing here but a simple table, a chair, and a few objects arranged in a specific way. The candidate is brought here and left alone. He is told that he must spend some time here, reflecting on what he has decided to do. The room of reflection is decorated in a gloomy and frightening manner. The walls are black. On the table stands a skull, a symbol of human mortality. Next to the skull lie bones, an hourglass counting down the passing time, and a dying candle. Latin sayings about death and the transience of life are written on the walls. The most famous of them is, "Remember death." There may also be inscriptions saying that man came into the world naked and will leave it naked, that everything earthly is mortal and only the spirit is eternal. There is paper and a pen on the table. The candidate is asked to write their spiritual will. This is not a legal document, but a symbolic act. A person must think about what they will leave behind when they die. What deeds? What memory? What have they achieved in life? What are they striving for? What is really important to him? This forces him to look at his life from the outside, to evaluate it from the point of view of eternity. Many candidates admit that these moments in the room of reflection are a real revelation for them. In addition, the candidate must write down the answers to 3 questions on paper. The first question: what are a person's duties to God? Second, what are a person's duties to other people? Third, what are a person's duties to themselves? These questions reflect the basic principles of Masonic philosophy. Freemasons believe that a person should be in harmony with God, with society, and with their own conscience. The answers to these questions will show how well the candidate understands the essence of Freemasonry. Time passes strangely in the room of reflection. Minutes seem like hours. The silence is oppressive. The skull stares with empty eye sockets. The sand in the hourglass trickles down with a quiet rustle. The candle melts. The wax drips. The candidate is left alone with his heaviest thoughts. About death, about the meaning of life, about whether he has lived his years correctly. It is a psychological test. Not everyone can withstand it. There have been cases when candidates refuse to continue the ceremony after the room of reflection. Freemasons explain the symbolism of the room as follows. A person must die to their old life in order to be reborn into a new one. The room of reflection is a symbolic grave. The candidate descends into it as if into the underworld, meets death face to face, and accepts the idea of his own mortality. Only after this can he be reborn, as a Mason, as a new person, cleansed of the sins and vices of the past. This is an ancient archetype of death and resurrection, which is present in many religions and mystery cults. Alchemical symbols may also be depicted on the walls of the room: sulfur, salt, mercury. They symbolize the process of transformation, the conversion of base metal into gold. Freemasons use alchemy as a metaphor for spiritual perfection. Man is like lead, which must be purified and turned into gold. This process is called the Great Work, and it begins here, in the Black Room, in the face of death. Will the candidate withstand this test? Is he ready for transformation? After the room of reflection, the candidate is led out, blindfolded, and prepared to enter the temple, as described earlier. And then he crosses the threshold. A compass is pressed against his heart. He is asked if he is ready to continue. He answers in the affirmative. Then the ceremony of initiation into the first degree of Freemasonry, the degree of apprentice, begins. This is the most important and dramatic ceremony. It is this ceremony that transforms a profane, uninitiated person into a Freemason. The candidate is led through the temple. He walks blindfolded, seeing nothing. He is led along a specific route, symbolizing the path from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge. At various points in the temple, he is stopped. Various officials of the lodge address him. The worshipful master, that is, the head of the lodge, sits on a platform in the eastern part of the temple. The first and second guards are located in the south and west. Each of them asks the candidate questions to test his readiness. During these stops, the candidate undergoes symbolic trials. He is touched with cold metal. It can be a sword or another object. This is a reminder that the path of a Freemason is not easy, that he must be ready for trials. He is led through the temple, forced to climb and descend steps, and go around obstacles. All this creates an atmosphere of uncertainty and tension. The candidate does not know what will happen next, and this keeps him in a state of extreme concentration. Finally, he is led to the altar. This is a sacred place in the center of the temple. On the altar lies the Book of Holy Law. usually the Bible, but it can be another holy book depending on the candidate's religion. Next to the book lie a compass and a square, the main symbols of Freemasonry. The candidate is forced to kneel before the altar. He kneels on his bare left knee. The right leg remains bent, forming a square. The hands are placed on the holy book. At this moment, the ceremony reaches its climax. The worshipful master pronounces solemn words that the candidate is about to take the most important oath of his life. An oath that will bind him to the brotherhood forever. An oath that he must not break under any circumstances. Then the master begins to read the text of the oath, and the candidate repeats it word for word. The oath is long and solemn. In it, the candidate promises to keep the secrets of Freemasonry, to help his brothers, to improve himself morally, and to obey the laws of the brotherhood. The oath places particular emphasis on maintaining secrecy. The candidate swears never to reveal to anyone what he learns in the lodge. He must not talk about the rituals or disclose the signs, words, and touches by which Masons recognize each other. In ancient texts, the oath contained frightening formulations about punishments for violating the secret: cutting the throat, tearing out the tongue, cutting the body. Today, Freemasons emphasize that these are only symbolic images and no one is actually punished. But the very atmosphere of the oath makes a strong impression. After the oath is taken, the most dramatic moment of the ceremony occurs. The blindfold is removed from the candidate's eyes. Light floods into his vision. After a long stay in darkness, it is blinding. The candidate blinks, getting used to the light. And the first thing he sees is the temple in all its splendor. Candles, columns, symbols, brothers in white gloves and Masonic aprons standing around him. This symbolizes the attainment of the light of knowledge, the emergence from the darkness of ignorance. The candidate has been reborn. Now he is a Mason, a brother apprentice. But what does that really mean? When a newly initiated apprentice sees the temple for the first time, his gaze falls on many symbols. The compass and square lying on the altar are the main emblems of Freemasonry. The compass symbolizes the vault of heaven, the spiritual beginning, the striving for perfection. The square represents the earth, the material principle, precision, and correctness of actions. Together, they signify harmony between the spiritual and the material, between heaven and earth. Often, the letter G is depicted between them, which can mean God or geometry. The floor of the temple is laid out in a checkerboard pattern of black and white squares. This symbolizes the duality of the world: good and evil, light and darkness, life and death. A Mason must learn to distinguish between these opposites and choose the right path. The checkerboard floor also reminds us that life is like a game in which every move matters. There are two columns in the western and eastern parts of the temple. They are called Jachin and Boaz, after the names of the columns that, according to the Bible, stood at the entrance to Solomon's temple. These columns have a deep symbolic meaning. They represent opposites: male and female, active and passive, strength and wisdom. Every Mason must pass between them to enter the temple. This symbolizes the reconciliation of opposites, the achievement of balance. The capitals of the columns are decorated with pomegranates and lilies, ancient symbols of fertility and purity. In some lodges, there are globes on the columns, the earthly and the heavenly, symbolizing the universality of Masonic knowledge. After the light has been revealed to the apprentice, he is taught the first secrets of the brotherhood. He is taught the apprentice's sign, word, and touch. The sign is a special hand gesture by which masons of the same degree recognize each other. For the apprentice, this is a movement of the hand across the throat, from left to right, reminiscent of the symbolic punishment for breaking an oath. The word is a secret password that apprentices share with each other when they meet. The touch is a special handshake, also used for identification. These means of identification are very important in Freemasonry. They allow brothers to recognize each other even when they are in foreign countries and do not know the language. The history of Freemasonry is full of examples of brothers helping each other in difficult situations after recognizing each other by a sign or handshake. These secrets are passed on orally and are never written down. Each Mason memorizes them and undertakes not to reveal them to the uninitiated. This creates a special bond between the members of the Brotherhood, a sense of belonging to a secret community. After learning the signs, the apprentice is given a Masonic apron. This is a white apron made of leather or fabric, which Masons wear during ceremonies. The apron symbolizes labor, as Masons call themselves Masons, workers. The color white signifies purity and innocence. The apprentice's apron is completely white, without any decorations. Journeymen and masters have various symbols on their aprons to indicate their rank. The presentation of the apron is accompanied by solemn words about it being the oldest and most honorable award. The apprentice is also taught the meaning of the Mason's tools, which are used in a symbolic sense. The 24-inch ruler symbolizes time, 24 hours in a day, which must be properly divided between work, rest, and serving others. The hammer symbolizes the power of conscience, which must cut away vices. The chisel symbolizes education and self-improvement. With these tools, a Mason must chisel away at the rough stone of his soul, turning it into a perfect cube. The ceremony ends with the new brother being introduced to all those present. The brothers approach him, shake his hand, and congratulate him on joining the Brotherhood. The atmosphere becomes warm and joyful. After the solemnity and tension of the ritual, this makes a strong impression. The new Mason feels that he has been accepted into a large family. He is no longer alone. He now has brothers who will always support and help him. But a long path of knowledge lies ahead of him. The first degree is only the beginning. What secrets will be revealed to him next? In classical Freemasonry, there are 3 symbolic degrees: apprentice, journeyman, and master. These are not just formal titles. Each degree represents a certain stage in the spiritual development of a Mason. Each degree has its own initiation ritual, its own symbols, and its own secrets. A Mason cannot simply buy or obtain a degree. He must earn it by working in the previous degree for a certain period of time, learning its lessons and proving his worth. The degree of apprentice, into which the candidate has just been initiated, is the first step on the Masonic ladder. An apprentice is like an uncut stone, rough and unpolished. His task is to work on himself, to learn, to absorb knowledge. An apprentice has the right to attend lodge meetings, but cannot vote on important issues. He is not yet a full member of the Brotherhood, but rather an intern undergoing training. In the old days, apprentices had to perform various official functions at meetings. The symbolic tools of the apprentice are a ruler, a hammer, and a chisel. The ruler teaches how to manage time properly. The hammer teaches willpower and determination in the fight against vices. The chisel teaches the need for constant work on oneself. With these tools, The apprentice must begin to shape the stone of his soul. This process is long and difficult. It requires patience, diligence, and perseverance. But the reward is great. The transformation from a wild, uncut stone into a proper cubic stone. After several months or even years, when the apprentice has mastered his lessons, he may be presented for initiation into the next degree, the degree of journeyman. This is the second degree of Freemasonry. An apprentice is a more experienced Mason who has completed his initial training and is ready for deeper knowledge. The ceremony of initiation into the apprenticeship differs from that of initiation into the journeyman's degree. It is less dramatic, but more philosophical. The emphasis is on education, on the knowledge of science and the arts. The symbolic tools of the apprentice are a plumb line, a level, and a square. The plumb line symbolizes straightness and honesty. The level symbolizes the equality of all people, and the square symbolizes the correctness of actions. The apprentice must learn to apply these principles in life. He must be honest, treat all people as equals, and act correctly in all situations. This is not easy, but it is what every Mason should strive for. In the ceremony of initiation into the apprenticeship, the candidate is again led blindfolded, but this time by a different route through the temple. New secrets are revealed to him, the sign, word, and touch of the apprentice. He is introduced to new symbols. Special attention is paid to the two columns of the temple and the spiral staircase leading to them. According to Masonic tradition, apprentices climb this staircase to the middle room of Solomon's temple to receive their wages. The staircase has 7 steps, symbolizing the 7 liberal arts and sciences. The 7 liberal arts are grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. In the Middle Ages, this was the standard of education. Freemasons have preserved this classification as a symbol of the pursuit of knowledge. An apprentice must study these sciences, broaden his horizons, and develop his mind. Freemasonry emphasizes the importance of education and intellectual development. A Freemason should not be ignorant. He should be an enlightened person, capable of thinking independently. After receiving the degree of apprentice, a Freemason becomes a full member of the lodge. He can participate in voting, express his opinion on important issues, and be elected to various positions. But the highest degree, the degree of master, is still ahead. The apprentice must prepare for it even more carefully. After all, the degree of master is associated with the most dramatic and profound legend of Freemasonry, the legend of Hiram Abiff, the chief architect of Solomon's Temple. But what is this legend, and why is it so important to Freemasons? The degree of journeyman marks an important stage in a Mason's career. If an apprentice is just beginning his journey, a journeyman already has a certain amount of experience and knowledge. He has gone through the first initiation, learned the initial lessons, and mastered the basics of Masonic wisdom. Now, deeper secrets are revealed to him. The journeyman gains the right to participate more actively in the life of the lodge. He can give presentations, participate in philosophical discussions, and assist in teaching apprentices. The ceremony of elevation to the degree of journeyman begins with a test of the apprentice's knowledge. He is examined on the material of the first degree. He must demonstrate knowledge of symbols, correctly show the sign of a student, name the word, and perform a handshake. He must explain the meaning of the main Masonic emblems. Only after passing the exam is the candidate admitted to the ceremony. This shows that Freemasonry takes education seriously. Here, you cannot just sit back and relax. You really need to absorb the knowledge. The candidate for apprentice is again prepared for initiation. But this time, the preparation is different from the first degree. Now, the right side of the chest is exposed, not the left. The right sleeve remains rolled up, but now the right knee is exposed, not the left. The right foot remains bare. All of this has symbolic meaning and shows the candidate's progress. If in the first degree the emphasis was on the left side, associated with the heart and feelings, now the emphasis is on the right side, associated with the mind and action. The blindfolded candidate is led into the temple. This time, he is led along a different path from that of the apprentice. In the Masonic temple, there are 3 main paths corresponding to the 3 degrees. Each path symbolizes a particular way of knowing. The apprentice's path goes from north through west to east, symbolizing the movement from darkness to light. The journey of the apprentice passes through the south, symbolizing the midday sun of knowledge. The journey of the master is yet to be discovered. The apprentices are led to 2 columns, Jachin and Boaz. Here they are told the story of these columns. According to the Bible, they were erected at the entrance to Solomon's temple. Jachin means, "He shall hold fast." Boaz means, "In him is strength." Together they symbolize the stability and power necessary for spiritual construction. Then the candidate is explained the symbolism of the spiral staircase with 7 steps. Each step represents one of the liberal arts that the apprentice must study. Grammar teaches how to speak and write correctly. Rhetoric teaches how to express one's thoughts convincingly. Logic teaches how to think and reason correctly. Arithmetic opens up the world of numbers and calculations. Geometry, which Freemasons consider the most important science, teaches how to measure the earth and understand space. Music teaches the harmony of sounds and mathematical proportions. Astronomy reveals the secrets of the heavenly bodies and the movement of the planets. Having mastered these sciences, the apprentice becomes an educated person, capable of understanding the structure of the world. After explaining the symbols, the candidate's blindfold is removed. He is shown the new secret signs of the degree of apprentice. The sign of the apprentice differs from that of the student. It is a movement of the hand from the right shoulder to the left hip, forming a diagonal. It is reminiscent of another symbolic punishment and the oath that the candidate is about to take. The words and touch of the apprentice also differ from those of the student. They are more complex and carry additional meaning. The candidate takes the apprentice's oath, kneeling on both knees before the altar. The oath is similar to the apprentice's oath, but contains additional obligations. The apprentice promises to continue working on himself, to study science and the arts, and to help his brothers in their work. He is given an apprentice's apron, which differs from a student's apron in that it has certain symbols on it. After the ceremony, the new apprentice is congratulated and given guidance for the future. But the most important test is still ahead. What secret awaits him in the 3rd highest degree? At the heart of the 3rd degree of Freemasonry, the degree of Master, lies the dramatic legend of Hiram Abiff. It is a story told in all Masonic lodges around the world. It is a story of loyalty, betrayal, death, and resurrection. A story that should teach a Mason the most important lessons about honor, fortitude, and the immortality of the soul. Without understanding this legend, it is impossible to understand the essence of Masonic teaching. Therefore, let us dwell on it in more detail. According to the Bible, King Solomon decided to build a temple in Jerusalem. It was to be the greatest structure of antiquity, a home for God. Solomon made a treaty with Hiram, king of Tyre, who sent cedar wood and a chief architect to help. This architect was named Hiram Abiff, which means Hiram, my father. He was a skilled craftsman who knew all the secrets of the building trade. Thousands of masons, carpenters, and day laborers worked under his leadership. Hiram divided all the workers into 3 classes: apprentices, journeymen, and masters. He gave each class special signs, words, and touches by which they could receive wages corresponding to their rank. Masters received more, journeymen less, and apprentices very little. This system worked well. The construction of the temple progressed successfully. But among the journeymen, there were 3 envious men. Their names were Eubela, Eubelo, and Eubellum. They decided to find out the secret word of the master from Hiram. One day, when the work was finished and everyone had left, the 3 conspirators hid in the temple. They knew that Hiram had a habit of inspecting the construction every day at noon. When the master entered the temple, the first conspirator blocked his way at the south gate. He demanded to know the master's word. Hiram refused, saying that the word could only be obtained through honest labor and the achievement of mastery. Then the conspirator struck Hiram in the throat with a ruler. The wounded Hiram tried to escape through the western gate. But there, the second conspirator was waiting for him. He also demanded the secret word. Hiram refused again. The second conspirator struck the master in the left breast with a square. Hiram, bleeding profusely, made his way to the eastern gate, where King Solomon himself was sitting. But a third villain was standing at the eastern gate. He demanded one last time that the secret be revealed. Even in the face of death, Hiram refused to betray the secret. Then, the third murderer struck him a terrible blow with a hammer on the forehead. Hiram fell dead. The murderers realized that they had committed a terrible crime. They hid Hiram's body and carried it out of the city at night. On a hill, they dug a grave and buried the master. They planted an acacia branch on the grave so that they could find the place later. In the morning, Hiram's disappearance was discovered. King Solomon sent out a search party to find the masters. They searched for a long time until they came across a freshly dug grave with an acacia branch. They pulled the body out of the ground. Solomon tried to lift Hiram with a special masterful grip, but the body was cold and decomposed. Then a new way of lifting the master was devised. Solomon took Hiram by the wrist in a special way, uttered a new masterful word, and lifted him out of the grave. This symbolized resurrection. Hiram was buried with honors. The 3 murderers were found, tried, and executed. Since then, the master's word has changed. The real word that Hiram knew has been lost. Instead, Freemasons use a substitute word, waiting for the true word to be rediscovered. This legend has a deep symbolic meaning. Hiram embodies loyalty, honor, and steadfastness in the face of death. He chose to die rather than reveal the secret. The trio of murderers symbolizes vices: ignorance, fanaticism, and tyranny. Hiram's death is the symbolic death of every human being. Resurrection is the hope for the immortality of the soul. The acacia branch is a symbol of eternal life. All this should make a Mason think about the meaning of life and death. Is he ready to go through this test? The ceremony of initiation into the degree of master is the most dramatic and psychologically intense of all Masonic rituals. If initiation as an apprentice was a symbolic birth, then initiation as a master is a symbolic death and resurrection. The candidate must experience what Hiram Abiff experienced. He must symbolically die in order to be reborn as a master. This ceremony leaves a deep mark on the soul of everyone who goes through it. The preparation for the ceremony is similar to the previous ones, but has its own characteristics. The candidate is stripped to the waist, both feet bare, both hands free. He is blindfolded and led into the temple. He is led along a special path, the third path of the master. This path is more difficult than the previous ones. It passes through the entire temple, through all obstacles. The candidate must walk around the temple several times, climb and descend the steps. All this symbolizes the difficult path to higher knowledge. During this journey, the candidate is told the legend of Hiram. He hears about the construction of the temple, about the three villains, about the demands to reveal the secret word. Then the most dramatic part begins. The candidate is led to the south gate of the temple. Suddenly, someone hits him on the neck with a ruler. The blow is not strong, but unexpected. A voice demands, "Reveal the secret word of the master." The candidate does not know this word, so he remains silent or replies that he does not know it. He is led further to the western gate. Here, a second blow is struck, with a square on his left chest. Again, he is asked to reveal the word. Again, he refuses. The candidate is led to the eastern gate. Here, the third and decisive blow is struck. He is struck on the forehead with a hammer. This is a symbol of the fatal blow that Hiram received. At this moment, the candidate is forced to fall to the floor. He lies sprawled out, as if dead. The brothers gather around him and begin to mourn the death of the master. The atmosphere in the temple becomes mournful. Only a few candles are lit. The brothers stand silently around the body. Passages from Scripture about death and the transience of life are read. All this makes a strong psychological impression on the candidate. He lies motionless, unable to see anything because of the blindfold over his eyes, but feeling the solemnity of the moment. He is truly experiencing symbolic death. This makes him think about his own mortality, about the fact that someday he will indeed die. Then the ritual of resurrection begins. First, they try to lift the candidate with a student's grip, but it doesn't work. Then they try with an apprentice's grip, also unsuccessfully. Finally, the venerable master, representing King Solomon, approaches the candidate. He takes him by the wrist with a special masterful grip called the lion's paw. He utters a new master word and lifts the candidate off the floor. This symbolizes the resurrection of Hiram. The candidate stands up, reborn to new life. The blindfold is removed from the candidate's eyes. He sees the brothers surrounding him. Everyone congratulates the new master. They explain the symbolism of the ceremony to him. He is shown the secret signs, words, and touches of the master. He is shown other symbols of the third degree. Among them, the acacia branch, a symbol of immortality, occupies a special place. Acacia is considered an evergreen plant that does not die even in winter. It symbolizes the immortality of the soul, which continues to live after the death of the body. The master is told that the true master word was lost with the death of Hiram. The word that is used now is only a substitute. The true word will be restored only when all the Freemasons of the world unite in perfect brotherhood. This symbolizes the unattainability of absolute perfection in this life. A Mason must always strive for the ideal, understanding that it is impossible to achieve it completely. The journey is more important than the destination. The very pursuit of perfection makes a person better. After receiving the degree of Master, a Mason becomes a full member of the Brotherhood with the right to hold any position in the lodge. He can be elected guardian, speaker, secretary, and even worshipful master of the lodge. He has completed the symbolic journey from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge, from death to resurrection. But this is not the end of the journey, only the beginning. Now the Master must apply the knowledge he has gained in life, continue to improve himself, and help others. But where do all these amazing ceremonies take place? A Masonic temple is a special place where all the ceremonies and meetings of the lodge are held. It is not a temple in the religious sense of the word. Masons do not conduct religious services here. The temple is a symbolic space, organized in accordance with ancient principles and saturated with symbolism. Outwardly, the building may be completely ordinary, but inside, it is arranged according to strict canons that are observed in all Masonic lodges around the world. The temple is usually a rectangular room oriented to the cardinal points. The eastern part is considered the most important. This is where the throne of the worshipful master, the head of the lodge, is located. The throne is usually elevated on a small platform and richly decorated. Above the throne is the symbol of the rising sun, or the letter G. The master sits facing west, from where new candidates arrive. He represents the light of knowledge that must illuminate the darkness of ignorance. The first and second guards are located in the south and west. These are lodge officials who assist the master in conducting ceremonies. In the south, where the sun is at its zenith, sits the first guard. He supervises the work of the apprentices. In the west, where the sun sets, sits the second guard. He supervises the work of the students. This arrangement symbolizes the movement of the sun across the sky from east to west, from dawn to dusk, from birth to death. In the center of the temple is the altar. This is a sacred place where candidates take their vows. On the altar lies the book of holy law, usually the Bible, but it can be the Quran, the Torah, or another holy book, depending on the religion of the majority of the lodge members. On the book lie a compass and a square, arranged in a specific way. For the degree of apprentice, the compass is completely covered by the square. For the journeyman, one leg of the compass is visible. For the master, both legs of the compass are visible above the square. The floor of the temple is laid out in black and white squares, like a chessboard. This mosaic covering symbolizes the duality of the world: good and evil, light and darkness, male and female. A Mason must be able to distinguish between these opposites and find a balance between them. Along the edge of the mosaic covering is a patterned border with alternating tassels, symbolizing the blessings that God sends to good people. There are two columns at the entrance to the temple. In lodges operating under the English Charter, the left column is called Boaz, and the right column is called Jachin. In the French Charter, the arrangement is reversed. The columns are richly decorated and crowned with capitals depicting pomegranates and lilies. Globes, earthly and heavenly, may stand on the capitals. These columns symbolize the columns of Solomon's temple and represent the opposites between which everyone entering the temple must pass. The ceiling of the temple is usually painted with stars representing the vault of heaven. In some lodges, the ceiling depicts the signs of the zodiac, the sun, the moon, and the planets. This is a reminder of the greatness of the universe and man's place in it. The walls may be decorated with Masonic symbols, images of masonry tools, and portraits of great masons of the past. In the eastern part, there is often an image of the all-seeing eye, a symbol of God who sees all human deeds. Benches for the brothers are located around the perimeter of the temple. During meetings, they sit according to their degrees and positions. Apprentices sit in the north, in the darkest part of the temple. Journeymen sit in the south, where there is more light. Masters sit in the east and west, closer to the officials. This arrangement symbolizes the progress from darkness to light that every Mason makes on his path. The temple may also contain other items: an altar for burning incense, a menorah or candelabra with 7 candles, and images of architectural elements of ancient temples. But the most important thing in a Masonic temple is not the objects, but the atmosphere. This place should set a serious mood, making one think about the eternal. When a Mason enters the temple, he leaves the hustle and bustle of everyday life behind and immerses himself in a world of symbols and ancient traditions. But how do the brothers recognize each other outside the temple? One of the most intriguing features of Freemasonry is the system of secret signs, words, and touches by which brothers recognize each other. These means of identification are called modes of recognition or modes of acknowledgement. They are passed down orally from master to apprentice and are never written down. Each degree has its own signs, words, and touches. Knowledge of them proves that a person has truly undergone initiation and is a true Mason. A sign is a special hand gesture that a Mason makes when entering the lodge or when meeting another brother. The apprentice's sign is a movement of the right hand across the throat from left to right, as if cutting it. This is a reminder of the oath and the symbolic punishment for breaking it. The sign of the apprentice is a movement of the hand from the right shoulder to the left hip, forming a diagonal across the body. The sign of the master is more complex and involves several movements. The word is a secret password that Freemasons share with each other. It is usually an ancient Hebrew or distorted ancient Hebrew word taken from the Bible. The words have symbolic meaning and are associated with the legends of each degree. The word is pronounced in a special way, by syllables or letters. Masons never pronounce the word aloud in its entirety. They whisper it into each other's ears. There are also auxiliary words that are used as passwords. The touch is a special handshake. Each degree has its own touch. The grip of an apprentice differs from that of a journeyman, and that, in turn, from that of a master. The differences lie in which fingers and where on the hand or wrist the pressure is applied. To the uninitiated, such a handshake may seem ordinary, but a Mason will immediately feel the special pressure and understand that he is in the presence of a brother. The master's touch is called the lion's paw and consists of a grip on the wrist. These methods of recognition have ancient origins. In the Middle Ages, when bricklayers moved from one construction site to another, they had to confirm their qualifications. Secret signs and words served as a kind of identity card. The master builder could check the newcomer, and if he correctly showed the sign and said the word, he was accepted for work. Nowadays, This function has lost its practical significance, but it has been preserved as a symbolic tradition. In addition to the basic methods of recognition, there are additional signs and gestures that Freemasons use in special situations. The sign of distress is a call for help that a Freemason can make when in danger. If another Freemason sees or hears this sign, he is obliged to come to the rescue. There are also signs for entering the temple, for checking the degree of another brother, and for demanding order during a meeting. Interestingly, the methods of recognition are not completely uniform in all Masonic jurisdictions. Lodges operating under different constitutions, English, Scottish, French, may have slight differences in signs and words. This sometimes creates difficulties when Masons from different countries meet. However, the basic principles remain the same, and experienced brothers can usually find a common language. In some cases, a ritual of mutual recognition of jurisdictions is performed. In the history of Freemasonry, there are known cases when knowledge of the methods of recognition actually saved lives. During wars and revolutions, Freemasons on opposing sides recognized each other by secret signs and provided assistance. It is said that during the Patriotic War of 1812, Russian and French Freemason officers helped each other, even though they were on different sides of the front. However, these stories are often exaggerated and belong more to Masonic mythology than to documented facts. The secrecy of the methods of recognition is one of the most criticized aspects of Freemasonry. Opponents of the Brotherhood claim that secret signs are used to create closed elite networks, to lobby for interests and mutual patronage. Freemasons respond that the methods of recognition are simply a tradition that has no practical use in the modern world. They are necessary to create a sense of brotherhood, to connect with history, and to preserve a special atmosphere. Whether this is true or not is up to each individual to decide. But what actually happens at the brothers' meetings? The Masonic Lodge holds regular meetings, which are called works. The frequency of meetings depends on the traditions of a particular lodge. Some meet weekly, others bi-weekly or monthly. Meetings are held in the temple and follow a strict ritual. Even a regular meeting, without initiations, is ceremonial in nature. All brothers come in dark suits and white gloves. Everyone wears their Masonic apron. The meeting begins with the opening ceremony of the lodge. The worshipful master, sitting in the east, strikes the gavel 3 times. This is the signal to begin work. The brothers take their places. The first and second guards check that only initiates are present in the temple. If there are visitors from other lodges, their degrees are checked. The uninitiated are not allowed into the temple. Then the master asks the guards ritual questions, and they give the established answers. This dialogue confirms that the lodge is ready for work. After the opening of the lodge, the secretary reads the minutes of the previous meeting. Then current affairs are discussed, financial issues, charitable projects, candidates for new members, upcoming events. The discussion is conducted in a free form, but with certain rules. Only with the permission of the master can one speak. It is forbidden to discuss religious and political topics that may lead to disagreement. Freemasonry proclaims tolerance and brotherhood. Therefore, it avoids controversial issues. An important part of the meeting is the so-called architectural work. These are philosophical reports that the brothers prepare and read before the lodge. The topics can be very diverse: the history of Freemasonry, the interpretation of symbols, biographies of famous Freemasons, philosophical questions. Architectural work is a means of education and self-improvement. The report is usually followed by a discussion. The brothers express their opinions, ask questions, and argue. This is intellectual work, which Freemasons consider no less important than rituals. If an initiation is planned for that day, it takes place in the middle of the meeting. The candidate is prepared in a separate room, then brought into the temple and taken through the ceremony. All the brothers participate in the ritual. Some say the prescribed words, some perform symbolic actions, and some simply observe, creating the atmosphere. After the initiation, the new brother is introduced to everyone, congratulated, and explained the structure of the lodge and his duties. The meeting ends with a closing ceremony. The worshipful master again asks the ritual questions to the guards. The prescribed phrases are spoken. The master strikes the gavel 3 times, declaring the work closed. The brothers form a chain of brotherhood. They join hands, crossing them in a special way, and stand in silence for several minutes. This symbolizes unity and mutual support. After that, the brothers remove their aprons and go to the refectory. The Masonic banquet, or agape, is an integral part of lodge life. It takes place after every meeting. The brothers gather at a common table, eat, drink, and socialize in an informal setting. But even the banquet has ritual elements. Seats at the table are assigned according to hierarchy. The worshipful master sits at the head of the table. Toasts are made to specific individuals and concepts. To the great architect of the universe, to the head of state, to the grand master of the jurisdiction, to visitors, and to new brothers. Toasts are made in a special way. After the master proclaims the toast, everyone raises their glasses, makes certain movements with them reminiscent of a Masonic sign, and drinks. Then the glasses are placed on the table with a characteristic clink. All this looks unusual to the uninitiated, but for Freemasons it is a familiar ritual. The banquet is a time for friendly communication, exchanging opinions, and strengthening brotherly ties. Here, they discuss not only Masonic topics, but also everyday matters, share news, and joke. In addition to regular meetings, lodges hold special events. St. John the Baptist's Day, June 24th, and St. John the Evangelist's Day, December 27th, are considered the main Masonic holidays. On these days, solemn meetings, ceremonial parades, and large banquets are held. Lodges also organize lectures, concerts, charity events, and trips to other lodges. Masonic life is full of events. But has all this been preserved in the 21st century? 308 years have passed since the founding of the First Grand Lodge of England. Freemasonry has survived wars and revolutions, persecution and bans, decline and revival. The world has changed. People have changed. But the ancient rituals continue to be performed. At the beginning of the 21st century, Masonic lodges operate in almost every country in the world. The number of members of the Brotherhood is estimated to be between 2 and 6 million. Most Freemasons live in English-speaking countries: the United States, Great Britain, Canada, and Australia. Modern Freemasonry is divided into many jurisdictions. The Grand Lodge of each country or region is independent and autonomous. There is no single world center of Freemasonry, no single leader or governing body. Lodges in different countries recognize each other or do not recognize each other, depending on whether certain principles of regularity are observed. The main one is the requirement of belief in a supreme being. Lodges that have abolished this requirement are considered irregular, and are not recognized by most Masonic jurisdictions. Disputes over regularity have led to a schism in the Masonic world. The most famous example is the Grand Orient of France, which at the end of the 19th century abolished the requirement of belief in God and began to accept atheists. This caused a break in relations with Anglo-Saxon lodges. To this day, French and Anglo-American Freemasonry exist in parallel, not recognizing each other. There are also women's Masonic organizations and mixed lodges, but they are not recognized by regular Masonry either. As for rituals, they have remained virtually unchanged. Of course, some elements have been simplified in some places, and the most frightening details have been removed, but the essence has been preserved. Candidates still spend time in the room of reflection, still enter the temple blindfolded, and still take solemn oaths. The legend of Hiram Abiff is still told. Newly initiated members still experience symbolic death and resurrection. These rituals have stood the test of time and retain their power. Society's attitude toward Freemasonry has changed. After World War II, when Freemasons were persecuted in both Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, the Brotherhood went through difficult times. Many lodges were closed, archives destroyed, and brothers killed or repressed. After the war, a gradual recovery began. New lodges were opened in Europe. In the 1990s, Freemasonry returned to the countries of the former socialist bloc, including Russia. Modern Freemasons try to be more open. Many lodges have websites where they talk about their activities. Open days are held when anyone can visit a Masonic temple, although without attending the rituals. Freemasons give interviews, publish books, and participate in scientific conferences. The goal is to dispel myths and prejudices, to show that Freemasonry is not a secret society of conspirators, but a brotherhood of people striving for self-improvement. Freemasons are actively involved in charity work. Almost every lodge has charitable projects, helping orphanages, hospitals, schools, supporting scientific research, and providing scholarships for students. In the U.S., Masonic organizations have created a whole network of children's hospitals that treat children free of charge. Freemasons help victims of natural disasters, veterans, and people with disabilities. This work is rarely publicized, but it constitutes a significant part of the activities of modern lodges. Who becomes a Freemason in the 21st century? People of all professions and ages, doctors and teachers, entrepreneurs and military personnel, artists and scientists. The average age of Freemasons is quite high, around 50 to 60 years old. There are few young people in lodges, although some jurisdictions create special lodges for youth. People are attracted by the opportunity to find like-minded people, join an ancient tradition, participate in beautiful rituals, and engage in charity work. Freemasonry continues to exist despite all the challenges of modern times. Ancient rituals are still in force. People are still searching for meaning, searching for brotherhood, searching for a path to self-improvement. And Masonic lodges offer them this path, a path that begins in a dark room of reflection and leads through symbolic death to resurrection and light. A path that each person walks alone, but surrounded by brothers. The secrets of Masonic rituals lie not in what exactly happens at the ceremonies, but in what these ceremonies mean to each individual. And this secret will remain forever.